evening. Welcome to the October 2nd meeting of the Glenville Town Board. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Dear God, we thank you for this day and all of its blessings. We ask that you guide our work and actions tonight, and that you instill in each of us the responsibility we have to our town and its residents. Remind us that we are here as members of this community, and as such, let us all work together in the spirit of friendship. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Let the record show Councilman Bibilani is absent. Councilman Aragosa?
Here.
Councilman Godlewski?
Here.
Councilwoman Wozzbowski? Here. Supervisor Ketzling?
Here, you all have the agenda out front there. There is one add-on resolution number 1, which would be enacting, we have a public hearing here on an extension for Water District number 11, which is at 175 Hague Road. Pending the outcome of that public hearing, we will have an add-on resolution to take up after resolution 19 and before new business. So that's the only addition to the agenda. With that, I'll start with town council reports. I'll start on my left, Councilman Godlewski.
Just wanted to extend my thanks to everybody that either participated in or specifically volunteered time to Glenville Oktoberfest this past Saturday. Fortunately, I wasn't able to make it. I'm finding out day by day that I'm at the mercy of our newborn schedule. But I heard it was a great event. I've heard from most of you it was a great event. And my thanks to everybody who helped out, took time away from their Saturday to make sure it came off great, as it always does. Also wanted to just extend my condolences and sympathies to the family of Judge Vincent Riley, who passed away, I believe, last week. Like any lawyer coming up in Schenectady County, you inevitably go through Judge Riley at some point in time. And everybody had stories, and we all kind of shared stories about him. He was straight out of central casting for what a judge looked like, acted like. He kind of had the stoic presence and witty sense of humor. He will certainly be missed by lawyers and beyond. And he also was great with the mock trial program here at Schenectady County, and great with the kids. So I did want to just kind of publicly extend my condolences to him. And then lastly, though I did have the occasion to say this twice, I did want to also extend a very happy birthday to Supervisor Ketzling, who hit a milestone yesterday. So happy birthday.
35. Thank you. Councilman Wozzbowski.
I'm going to begin by echoing Councilman Godlewski's comments. I was at Oktoberfest for some of the setup and a portion of the event, and thank you and the town staff and all of the volunteers on the Oktoberfest committee and GBPA and everybody. It was a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'd like to thank everybody. This was the 10th annual. I remember when it started over at the Schenectady County Airport in a very small field, and we worried about where we were going to park the cars, and the first several years it rained until we moved it to Malwick. And it's been sunny pretty much ever since, so it's always sunny in Malwick. Also, I would like to just mention that I did attend the Owl Falls Fire Department Ladies Auxiliaries Apple Fest. Brought the last pie, it was delicious. I went up to West Fest for a little while, which is an annual gathering that's put on by the residents of West Glenville. It was really cool, and I almost got talked into doing the crosscut saw contest, but I chickened out and went home. And other than that, happy birthday, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you. Councilman Aragosa.
I'm going to echo everybody's theme about Oktoberfest. I want to thank everybody that was there. I particularly want to thank the people who helped me in the parking lots. It was a great day. We had a lot of real good helpers, and I think it went off pretty seamlessly. So thanks to all those and for all that. And again, happy birthday to the supervisor.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't get any cards with money in it for you guys, but thank you. That was helpful. I appreciate it. Thank you. So moving on to the public hearing, we will have a public hearing now that I will open shortly regarding the proposed extension of Water District Number 11 within the town of Glenville to be established and include the property at 175 Hay Road. I will open that public hearing right now. Public hearing is open. Anyone wish to be heard on that matter regarding the Water District 11 extension to 175 Hay Road? Going once, going twice, seeing none, that public hearing is closed. We'll now move to privilege of the floor. We do have a few folks signed up, so we'll start with the folks who are signed up. After that, if you're interested in speaking in privilege of the floor, raise your hand, we'll invite you to the podium, and you can address the board on any item you may wish. The first person I have signed up is Kurt Simone. It's your way. Oh, thank you.
Evening, my name is Kurt Simone. I live at 181 Brahms Road, Glenville. I have a concern that I shared with the Daily Gazette on September 10th, and now I desire to share with you, the governing body of Glenville. I am employed as a public school teacher at the Burn Hills Boston Lake School District. I teach civics and government, U.S. history, American Revolution, and military history. I have also been a volunteer, meaning no compensation, for the town of Glenville since 2007, donating over 1,000 hours of my time and expertise to Glenville today. I do it as part of an example for my students and because I am driven by civics. I would consider running for the school board, but I can't. It is against the law. No person shall be a school board member in a school district that employs them. Now I suppose that I could argue that I could function properly in the school board simply by abstaining from voting on the teacher's contract. But no, the law, known as ethics law, is clear and designed to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest, real or perceived. The ethics law is so broad that anyone living in my home, including my wife and 2 adult children, are forbidden by law to serve on the school board. I mention all this because I was surprised to learn that a Mr. Andrew Kohout is running for the Glenville Town Board in the upcoming election. I am surprised not because of qualification issues, but because of a clear violation of basic ethics. Mr. Kohout is the full-time Village of Scotia Public Works Superintendent. I teach civics and government and view ethics as key to good local governance. It is so important that Glenville and Scotia both have ethics laws, have them on file with the State Controller's Office, and they are published. The Ethics Law of Scotia, Mr. Kohout's full-time employer, states, quote, if observed, can enhance public confidence in local government, end quote. Mr. Kohout does not inspire public confidence when he desires a public office, meaning employment, in a town that directly conflicts with the obligations entrusted in his current village office and employment. Nor should the people of Scotia pay Mr. Kohout twice for this conflicted service. Ethical issues can be clear, like you should never drive a town or village car on personal errands. They can also be complicated. For example, can Mr. Kohout, as a town board member, negotiate to consolidate town and village public works departments, knowing his village employment would have to be terminated? Common sense answers no. And ethics answers he should never be placed in that situation. He will encounter multiple serious conflicts of interest that would prevent him from serving the town and village wholeheartedly at the same time. I have heard rumors that he argues that he will simply abstain from voting on issues that he views in conflict. The problem is that most issues are tied together and therefore will be in conflict. Can't vote on police department issues, public works department issues, spring cleanup, leaf pickup, park issues, etc. Most importantly, he can't even vote on the budget and tax issues. The office of councilperson is a part-time position that is vital to the people of Glenville, and councilpersons can fully invest themselves in service to the residents or do little for the people. Mr. Kohout wants his councilperson position to be a part-time of a part-time of a part-time position. Why would Scotia and Glenville pay good money for poor service? Scotia's ethics law states that employees can't incur any obligation of any nature that leads to conflicts of interest. The village ethics law further forbids the public works superintendent from accepting other employment which will impair his independence of judgment. Keep in mind that ethics laws do not discriminate between elected and appointed employees or full-time and part-time employees. They are all the same in the eyes of the law. Ethics laws and good judgment guide employees in public office to place the people above themselves. Now, it is possible that machine politics at the county level will alleviate Mr. Gohart of his dilemma and offer him employment. But of course, one would hope that the county has an ethics law that keeps such unethical practices at bay, thus protecting people from abuse of power. Regarding Glenville's ethics law, it pales in comparison with that of Scotia. Scotia's law is superior. I believe a review of Article 18, General Municipal Law, previous Attorney General decisions, and state controllers' guidance and directives will reveal that Glenville's ethics law does not meet the basic standards. It should be stronger like that of Scotia and can be even more restrictive than Scotia's ethics law. In summary, should Mr. Cohut find himself on the town board January 1st, the spotlight will shine on the trustees serving the village of Scotia, and they would have to terminate his employment on that same day. It would be sad, however, that we, the people, would have had to rely on an ethics law to ensure government employees to do the right thing. As a final note, if Mr. Cohut truly wants to provide additional services, he can do what hundreds of other residents of Scotia and Glenville do: volunteer. It happens every day. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person we have signed up is Richard Eustace.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Happy birthday also.
Thank you.
Welcome to getting old like the rest of us.
Dick, I've been getting old my entire life.
As have I. My name is Richard Eustace. I am a Glenville resident for 18 years now. I reside at One Miracle Lane in Glenville. I've been active in economic development of the town for the past 10 years, most recently as chairman of the Glenville Local Development Corporation, and currently treasurer. Why they trust me with all that money, I don't know, but they do. So probably won't be long, I'll be in the Porsche headed for Florida. My concern this evening is that one of the candidates for town board is also a commissioner and an employee of the Village of Scotia who wants to sit on the Glenville Town Board. I believe this presents a conflict of interest. Nothing could present a bigger conflict than being an appointed commissioner and a village employee and being responsible for decisions of the Glenville Town Board. I've been advised that the village code of ethics states that no village employee shall accept other employment that will impair his independence of judgment in the exercise of his official duties. Nothing could present a bigger conflict in my mind than being an appointed village employee and also being responsible for decisions on the Glenville Town Board. Common sense dictates that there is an inherent inconsistency in the positions, particularly since the town and the village have a number of intermunicipal agreements involving towns, highways, payments to the two entities, and other budgetary matters. Positions of being an appointed Scotia DPW commissioner and Glenville Town Board are clearly incompatible, as his interest, time, and interest inevitably will be divided. And I believe that the town board and the Scotia trustees need to address this as a review of their ethics law to prevent any future such breaches. Glenville deserves a town board member who is committed and can act 100% in capacity on the job, and who does not bring the potential for conflicts and ethics concerns. I'm urging all town residents to make their voices heard and urge that the town board and the village trustee members implement an ethics law to avoid such conflicts in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard or privilege of the floor? Anyone else wish to be heard or privilege of the floor? Going once, going twice. Seeing none. Closed. We'll move to supervisors' comments to board. I'll start with the common theme tonight is Oktoberfest was a fantastic success again. I do want to thank Vicki and Jamie and Heather and the entire committee. think we said that it takes about 250 or so volunteers to run that event, which is astonishing. The number of vendors that run the event, the number of our employees, not only in the police department, but in the highway. It's just a tremendous event. You know, Jim Belakovic and I were talking at the event that, you know, when we started, Gina, I think 10 years ago, we said, you know what, Glenville needs a community event. This is kind of what we envisioned, and it came together. And, the work that the folks do to make it happen is just humbling and astonishing. And, it's not just, it celebrates Glenville, but we're bringing in so many people from other areas to celebrate Glenville. That's really what I think is really special. So again, thank you all for all your hard work on it. It took multiple days of setup and breakdown and cleanup. And the most amazing thing was they're having soccer games at noon the next day on those fields. It's just amazing how they turn that around. So thank you very much for all that. I wanted to report back to the board. I think last board meeting, Councilman Aragosa brought up in his report that there was some talk of the highway summer hours schedule, and some might have liked it and some might have not. So Jason and I took a look at the final totals of the summer hours, and now that we're through it. And if you all recall back at the contract, we sat down at the negotiating table and we said to the union, CSEA, that, you know, there's one major issue here. We have a department working 4 days when everyone else is working 5 days. We want coverage on that 5th day, and we want to make sure residents are receiving services on every working day. And so we hashed that out. We came to that table, I think, a couple times over with different ideas of how to make it work. And I want to congratulate CSEA for working with us on that. They didn't walk away from it and saying they didn't want to do it. They said, well, we understand your objectives, let us figure out how we can do it with you. And I think it was a great partnership. Jason was there, Mike was there. But I think the proof is really in the numbers now. So the data for all 22 weeks of the highway summer hours, and what we did is we looked at 2019 versus 2018. And this shows the number of regular hours worked by the highway employees during the summer schedule. That's boots on the ground, actually working. This does not include overtime or any of the personal leaves taken. The road crew, just the road crew, we broke it out between road crew, parks, and garage. The road crew worked an additional 84.6 hours per week on the roads during that period. We went from, in 2018, 8,500 hours worked to 2019, 10,370 hours worked. That's a total of 1,860 hours of extra work being done on the roads this year because of this program. In parks, we increased park production by 18.3 hours per week, a total of 403 hours through the entire summer. They went from having 1,244 hours in 2018 to 1,647 hours in 2019. In the garage, we saw 62.1 hours of additional work per week. In 2018, in the garage, we went from 1,520 hours to 2,887 hours in 2019, a total of 1,366 hours of additional manpower for the entire season. In total, there was 165 hours of additional work in the entire highway department in 2019 over 2018. We went from 11,274 hours worked in 2018 to nearly 15,000 hours worked in 2019. Perhaps most impressive, employee attendance improved in 2019 over 2016. We went from 66% attendance in 2018 to 75.7% in 2019. The days in the summer in 2018 that we had at least 19 employees working was one day. In 2018, we had at least 19 employees working. In 2019, that number went to 19 days. The days in 2018 where we had at least 15 people working, 18 days. And in 2019, that went to 61 days. Clearly, our productivity increased dramatically under the new system. Now, there's some things in there that we also did to help that. You all know we added a laborer. One laborer does not account for all this. but that's helped. We did add a part-time to parks, that's helped a little bit. But adding Fridays and working with the CSEA unit on making sure this worked for the town of Glenville and its residents clearly was a success this year. And I think it's proved in the end that this was the wise decision. So whether people like it or don't like it, depending on their own personal schedules, is another issue. But is it good for the employees? Is it good for the residents? The resounding, and the taxpayer, resoundingly yes. Next year, there's going to be an enhancement in our agreement that kicks in next year, and we'll be reducing the number of days off from the number of people off from 6 to 5. So those numbers are going to go up even more, and that was part of the negotiation on the whole thing. So I did want to report on that because I think it's a great story and I think our workforce needs to be congratulated because they embraced it and they made it work, and I really do appreciate them for that. Other than that, as you all know, it's budget time. The budget is out. I'm sure we'll have some discussions on it. But just because we're at a board meeting and just for edification of residents who might be watching, you all already have seen the budget memo. This 2020 proposed tax rate increase, bottom line is 2.52% within the tax cap. This increase will hit a typical village homeowner at about $4 per year and a typical townhouse owner at about $23 per year. This is another budget, a consecutive budget for us, a 10-year consecutive budget that would reduce the debt load again for the town. We've talked in the budget forums about how important it was to reduce the debt load from 23 million. We reduced it by 11 million, 12 million to just under, just about 11 million. We've also reduced the use of our savings account again, which is then those three main funds that we've talked about in the past. When we inherited this budget, we were using $1.4 million of our savings account to pay for our operational budget. We've reduced that now down. Another reduction this year proposed of $40,000, and that will bring us to about $300,000 of total utilization of our savings account this year. That's a trend that's going opposite other municipalities, but it's important because it's helped us do so many things like create our capital reserves, which is now allowing us to invest finally into many of our capital improvements that we want to do in this budget and in past budgets. This financial planning has produced concrete results. That's why I think I'm committed. I know many members of the board are committed to these principles because it's allowed us to do things like save the historic Yates Mansion. It's allowed us to construct a new gun range for our police department, install streetlights in our commercial corridors, sidewalks and pedestrian paths in our neighborhoods and our commercial corridors, install new automatic read meters that brought more efficiency to our operations, expand the senior center, replace DPW and parks equipment that was aging, constructed the Anderson Dog Park, improved our roads and our playing fields at Melwood and Indian Meadows, added a second entrance to Melwood Park, and funded a new pavilion and concession stand, including bathrooms and utilities within that park. These are all things that we're finally able to do because we stayed true to the principles of protecting our savings account, reducing our debt, and lowering our overall costs. Gina and I can talk about the past 10 years. We had difficult years. We had to make difficult decisions. But it got us to where we are now because we were true to those principles. So I think as we go through the budget, I'm looking forward to having a spirited conversation and talk about ideas, and we're all Mr. Godlewski open to negotiations. But look forward to the process, and if anyone has any questions for me, now's the time.
Not on the budget, but with respect to the walking path on Glenridge, what's the, just because it looks done, or
Yeah.
almost done, where do we stand with it?
Just got the ADA required pads on either end just in the other day. Looks like it's got a little bit of infill left, but it's ready to open probably within the next week. So we'll do some sort of opening in the next week or two. I don't think the agenda tonight has the naming of the pathway on it. Do we have that on the agenda tonight? No. So we may actually open it before we actually do the resolution, unless somebody has a major issue with that. But we're waiting for the sign to come in, and probably have a little ribbon cutting in the next week or two, which we'll let you know as soon as it's.
Looks great.
It really does. Yeah. People have used it just tonight. I know it's coming up. People were using it, but they've used it through the construction. But once it was stone dust, people were walking on it. You know, so it's something that was needed.
Just to say that, thank you for that analysis on the summer hours, because that's very helpful for me going back.
I can get you the write-up.
That would be great.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so back to the agenda. We have item number 8, a resolution authorizing the town clerk to issue a permit. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is TJ's Playland Pub has applied for a permit to conduct an outdoor entertainment event under a tent with live bands this weekend, Friday, October 4th, and Saturday, October 5th, from 7 to 12 here in the pub. This would approve their permit application to do so.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please report the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 9, authorizing the supervisor to sign a construction agreement with Two Guys Realty for relocation of a sanitary line. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, just for discussion, this is a resolution that would allow me to enter into an agreement. Mohawk Honda is expanding on their site, and as part of that expansion, they need to relocate an existing sewer main. Prior to the construction, this would allow us to enter into that agreement and would allow the expansion of the Mohawk campus, and basically this would help them to continue the business and continue to thrive here in our town. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, schedule a public hearing for October 16th regarding the vehicle and traffic change to our code. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, as you stated, this resolution would schedule a public hearing for Wednesday, October 16th, 2019, at 7 p.m. in connection with some proposed changes to our vehicle and traffic code of the town of Glenville. Specifically, maximum speed limit would be established within the town of Glenville and town highways, beginning at the intersection of Live Road Extension at the northerly right-of-way of Alliance Amsterdam Road. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Come to the public hearing. It's with regard to setting some maximum speed limits within the town on the western part of town.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please report the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 11, to schedule a public hearing on October 16th regarding any objections to the assessment roll for Water District 11 and extensions number 10 through 48. Do I have a motion?
So
Do
moved.
I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, as you stated, this resolution would schedule a public hearing for the assessment rolls for Water District 11, Water District Extension numbers 10 through 48, October 16th, 2019 at 7 p.m.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please report the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 12, scheduling a public hearing on October 16th regarding to hear any objections to assessment roll for sewer district number 9 through and extension number 7. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, Mr. Supervisor, for some reason, no.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Goddard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Cassel?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 13, to schedule a public hearing on Wednesday, October 16th, to consider any objections to assessment roll for Sewer District 1. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Moved in second. Any discussion?
No, only to add the time is at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Goddard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Cassel?
Yes, we're going to have a lot, resolution passes. We're going to have a lot of public hearings on October 16th. Next, resolution 14, scheduling a public hearing for October 16th to hear all those interested in any objections to assessment roll of Sewer District Number 7. That is the public hearing here at 7 o'clock. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Goddard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Cassel?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 15, authorizing the supervisor to execute all necessary documents for a New York State Justice grant. Do I have a motion?
So
Do I
moved.
have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is in connection with a grant that the town of Glenville is applying for to finance projects for our town court. The town board, with this resolution, approved the application for funding under the 2019-2020 Justice Court Assistance Program with a request amount not to exceed $30,000. So this resolution, should it pass, would authorize you to execute all necessary documentation for this application for court funding under the Justice Court Assistance Program. And I always like to make sure that I thank our court clerks. They work very, very hard on making sure that we get extra monies in our budget to make improvements in the courtroom, the very chairs that you're sitting on, a lot of the improvements to the dais, and improvements within the courtroom have come from those funds. And I would like to thank both Joelle and Gretchen for their hard work on that every single year.
Thank you.
They write a nice grant.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Goddard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Cassel?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 16, authorizing the purchase of the 2019 Dodge Charger. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Do I
it.
have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution should have passed, would authorize the chief of police to purchase one 2019 Dodge Charger police vehicle at a total cost not to exceed $25,600 from Main Motor Car in Johnstown, New York, with the expense for the vehicle in the 2019 amended budget. Would also authorize the chief of police to expend up to $13,000 to purchase all the necessary equipment and vehicle outfitting for this vehicle, which is also, funding is also included in the 2019 amended budget. And finally, this resolution, should it pass, would deem a totaled 2017 Ford sedan surplus property eligible for disposal in the most cost-effective manner as determined by the town comptroller.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Goddard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Cassel?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 17, authorizing the purchase of two 2020 Chevy Equinox vehicles. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second.
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is in connection with the town of Glenville Building Code Enforcement Assessment and Planning staff regularly inspecting sites located throughout the town. They need reliable transportation to perform their duties. They currently utilize 3 vehicles to perform these duties, a 2009 Ford Escape and a 2011 Jeep Liberty, both of which have proven more costly to repair and maintain. So they have developed and solicited many bids to yield suitable replacement options for the 2009 Ford Escape and the 2011 Jeep Liberty. Results in a low bid received from Mangino Chevrolet for the procurement of 2 2020 Chevrolet Equinox vehicles, which meet the requirements and specifications. The purchase of these vehicles is included in the 2019 budget appropriation, so therefore this resolution, should it pass, would town comptroller would be authorized to purchase 2 2020 Chevy Equinox vehicles to be used primarily for the Building and Code Enforcement Department at a total cost not to exceed $46,800 from Mangino's Chevrolet, and the expense for this budget, expense for these vehicles, as I said, is included in the budget for this year. Additionally, this resolution would, upon the purchase, would deem the 2009 Ford Escape and the 2011 Jeep Liberty utility surplus and be eligible for disposal by the town comptroller.
Any other questions or comments? I'm just glad that we're moving towards the Chevy Equinoxes. I think they were a good purchase, and based on what we had previously with the problems we had, I'm glad we're moving into this line, so. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please report.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 18, authorizing the purchase of the 2019 Chevrolet Silverado cab and dump truck. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is in connection with a request from the Town of Glenville Public Works Department that they need some reliable transportation to perform their duties. The highway superintendent has advised that they are neither vehicle appropriate for day-to-day use and also to serve as an additional vehicle for snow plowing. The highway superintendent further advises that the department needs to be best served by purchasing a 2019 Chevy Silverado cab chassis with galleon dump body. This vehicle is available from Mangino Chevrolet under the OGS contract at a price of $63,099. This resolution, should it pass, will authorize the Commissioner of Public Works to purchase this vehicle at a cost not to exceed $63,100 with the expense for the said vehicle to be included in the 2019, as included in the 2019 amended budget. I would say that I was down to the garage when they had this vehicle for a 24-hour period, and I checked it out, and it is a very impressive vehicle. I think it's going to be very versatile for them. I think it's going to serve a number of, and fill a number of needs that they have, especially when we're in transition time between snow and leaves. So I'm pleased to see this resolution on the agenda this evening.
Thank you. I was with Councilwoman as we toured the truck and looked at all the different features. They even had me, after you left, had me drive it to show how user-friendly it is, because if I could drive it, anyone could drive it. Apparently, that was the test. So we only took down a few telephone poles, but other than that, no, what's impressive about it really is it does all the functions of plowing and leaf pickup at a fraction of the cost of a larger dump truck, so it has more versatility. This is, as I understand it, a newer model that's in between a pickup and a large dump truck, so it gives you the versatility, gives you the savings and money, but it gives you the same performance. So I think it's a great purchase, and it's one of our first in the fleet of this size that we have, so we're going to see how it works, and maybe there might be more in the future.
Yeah, I was also saw the vehicle, and it just didn't work out pretty well for what they want to use it for. There's quite a few of them on the road these days.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more and more.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please go to the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 19, approving the town board minutes for July 17. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
As stated, Mr. Supervisor, this resolution would approve the minutes of the July 17, 2019 meeting that Ms. News provided to us via email, and I would thank her for her preparation work on that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please go to the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Seeing there was no comments, or certainly no objection to the resolution add-on number 1 earlier during the public hearing, we'll move resolution add-on number 1, which is the water extension for Water District number 11 for 175 Hague Road. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Do
it.
I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution does indeed have to do with the proposed extension to Water District number 11 at a property commonly known as 175 Hague Road. It would be known, should this resolution pass, it would be known as extension number 49 to Water District 11. It should be noted that this improvement is would be authorized to be constructed within the district, and the cost of this extension would be fully borne by the developer. I think those are the two main points, that this comes at no cost to the town. Well, no.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please go to the vote.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Now we are into new business. I'll start on the left with Councilman Godlewski. Councilwoman Wozzachowski.
I have nothing.
Councilman Mayor Agosto.
No.
The only thing I have is that we're making progress at Gates Mansion. We'll probably do an update at the work session. We secured a donor who is going to help us with the cost of a historic architect to kind of GC the project going forward. So that's a huge step forward for us. The DASNY money of $100,000 of the $150,000 has been allocated. We're going to sign the agreement for that, so that money will start moving. And we are about to get back the archaeological report from the dig this summer, which should hopefully tell us a little bit more about the house. So there's a lot of progress there. It doesn't look it when you drive by, it's just sitting there, but there's a lot going on. And we can do an update probably at the work session next week. So seeing no other business, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second?
I'll second.
Moved in second, all in favor? Any opposed?